We good? Okay, I would like to call to order the ARB meeting for tonight, Wednesday, June 20th, 2022. Roll call, please. June, I'd like to call to order our ARB meeting for tonight, Wednesday, June 15th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Howard,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
King,
Here.
Snyder, Utz.
Here.
Okay, can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we are at citizens' time. Would anyone like to speak for citizens' time that does not have an active application? Hello, citizen Mayor Lorson.
Good evening. Citizens' time, but this is actually mayor. I'm representing the mayor at this. We have two people up on the dais today that this will be their last meeting. Town of Haymarket is sad to see you guys stepping down, but understand with personal reasons why. In response, though, we would like to show our appreciation. I have, if Sheridan King and Rochelle Utz, if you guys could come down to the steps on the dais, I'd like to present you with a plaque of appreciation for the efforts that you put in volunteering for the town of Haymarket. Michelle, an appreciation for the volunteer work that you've done here with the ARB. Chivalry, we thank you for your extra. Thank you for your hard work. If you guys want to wrap them up. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And I yield the podium. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next thing on our agenda are the minute approvals. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from our regular meeting on May?
You have two meetings, so you want to separate them. One would be for the work session on May 18th. That was for your ARB guidelines. Motion to
Yes.
accept those minutes.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from our work session on Wednesday, May 17th?
How about the 18th?
18th? I'll get it right. Sorry. I apologize.
I motion to accept the minutes for the ARB guidelines on Wednesday, May 18th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor of that one?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then the next motion is to accept the minutes for the regular monthly meeting at 7 p.m. on May 18th.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the regular meeting on Wednesday, May 18th?
I motion to accept the minutes for the regular scheduled meeting on Wednesday, May 18th.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to agenda items.
So tonight our first item is the firehouse COA for a demolition. I forwarded to the board on Monday the report that Mr. Leek sent over at the end of last week. I apologize for that delay. I was out on vacation. So I have printed it for everybody, so it's a 4-page document up on the dais for you. Hopefully you've had some time to take a look through it. I'm going to call Mr. Leek up in a minute to go through that report with you. I just also wanted to let you know the other documents that I put up there for you, and we'll include these as part of the record. Board member Marchant Schneider also located a previous report from the previous building official, and this was completed in the June timeframe of 2017. So I've included that report as well that he sent to the board. And then I've also included 2 other documents. Those are the draft findings and conditions. If you look at the very top of those 2 pages, you'll see one is for a partial demolition option and one is for a full demolition option. So definitely take your time reading through these, but I am going to call up Mr. Leek to go through the report that he's provided, answer any additional questions, and then if the board would like to take time and discuss, we can move from there.
I'm gonna grab a laptop out. I'm not gonna do a presentation. I appreciate it. No, I don't need that. And we're finally back. So, I think the last time we all spoke was in April. And I know we're in a bind this evening per se because 2 of you are going to be either moving or stepping down or doing something else. So I don't know what the board wants to do. If you all feel comfortable this evening, I'm totally open to having a discussion as far as necessary to be able to make a determination. I know that I sent it over on Friday when Miss Emily was on vacation, and so it didn't get to you to the beginning of this week. So at the same time, I totally understand if you have not had enough time to review it. By no means do I want to push the board to make a decision before they are ready to. I also know Mr. Schneider sent the other email late last evening, so the short turnarounds on both documents. So by no means am I expecting a decision this evening. I know Marchant would probably also wish he was here. But if you all would like to, I'd be happy to answer as many questions and go in depth detail as you all want to. So I don't know if you all want to see a consensus on the board. I know it was only mentioned as continued in here and with transparency to the rest of the town. I don't know if you all want to make that determination or if you want me to just dive into the different reports that were provided or what you all would like to do.
Yeah, I would appreciate that if you can talk a little to the report that you have from the DRH engineers, and then a little bit more into detail on the report that was previously done. And I would just want to make a statement ahead of that, that while I know you guys are anxious to have a vote, I was able to look, I'll just speak for myself, I was able to look through the engineer's report, and it was pretty straightforward. But in looking at the additional information, I really did not have enough time to kind of look at the old report and the new report. You know, I will not be here at the next meeting, but I understand too if you guys feel like you need more information before you would vote on it. I think that would be acceptable, and I would agree. I think Marchant, Mr. Schneider's opinion would be valuable, and I'm happy to give you mine. But I would, looking at this report and then the old report, I did have some questions. So I'd love to hear, you know, a little bit more about, you know, the findings and I guess kind of your thoughts there.
Of course. Well, we'll dig on into it then. So we had a structural engineer come out, structural engineer licensed by the state of Virginia. It took some time to find somebody who was willing to put something on paper that knew that it was going to be made part of the record into the town of Haymarket. We did have one company that once we told them what it was for, they said no, and they backed away, and that's kind of why we had the longer delay. The on-site visit was conducted the last week of May. I was not in town. I was overseas. I was originally planning on being there with Emily and Marchant, but Next thing you know, I got a call from the property owner saying, hey, we're at the site, come on over. And I was like, well, I'm about 4,000 miles away. That's a bit impossible. I know Marchant had sent an email requesting questions about the photos. I've left a message with Mr. Hall, but I have not heard back. I'm assuming that he has just used stock photos that he or LH, the other company, LRE, had already had. But I don't have an honest answer, and I didn't want to reply all to the email, obviously, for FOIA reasons. I didn't want it to constitute a meeting, so I did not go ahead and do so. The report, as Chairwoman King stated, it's pretty straightforward to the mere fact that it gives their opinion on it. I know a lot of the questions is regarding CMU and that hollow core CMU, and what is the overall strength factor and life factor of hollow core CMU when it is not reinforced with rebar and when it's not reinforced with either mortar or concrete infilled. With that being said, I know that Mr. Barbeau's reports brought up ANSI standards from 1946. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it. I had to personally go back and look at it. In section 1.5.1 talks about test requirements and when tests are actually required within the CMU, and it clearly states that field tests are not required for strength and core tests in regards to Mr. Barbeau's mentioned to up to 700 psi, so on and so forth. So in latent terms, what that means is that, hey, we bring the products to the job site, we use them, and unless somebody calls foul, it's not getting site tested on that end. That's a document that I downloaded online, and it's section 1.5.1 on the ANSI standard manual from 1946 that Mr. Barbeau mentions. From there, it's pretty straightforward. It states that it's their recommendation that it be demolished or replaced. Now, one can say, well, that's a biased document, that it states that there is the ability to rehab it, as Mr. Barbeau mentions in his document as well. But as Mr. Barbeau mentions, he clearly states that he's looking at it as a building official, which building officials are looking at it in regards to code compliance, and he clearly states that he does not take costs into factoring. As we move forward through the reports, the back portion of the property has shifted. He notes a few inches, not knowing what it's from, whether it be the earthquake in 2011 or if it was just due to the poor construction and foundation of that property. From there, one of the things the town wanted to know is if you could peel off portions of this building and would it be integrally sound. The engineer said he would not be able to make that determination until he was in the field watching it come down and looking to see what how sound that remaining structure would end up being at the end of the day, and how much the buildings have shifted and what is supporting what and holding what up. So that he said, unfortunately, he could not make a determination based off that, and that would have to be a field call as we were trying to remove them. Mr. Barbeau makes the same comment within his report where he states that it is a concern of his on if they could be peeled off and peeled back, but he said obviously with enough money anything can be done. Since our report's kind of short on that end, I'll just dive into Mr. Barbeau's report unless you want me to answer any questions about our report.
I have a couple questions. So, did,
Chairwoman, real quick, I'm sorry. Can we make a quick motion to untable this application before the board starts discussing amongst yourselves?
yes.
Okay, so just make a motion to, take it off the table, take off the firehouse demolition permit discussion off of the table.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to take the agenda item, firehouse demolition permit discussion off the table and move to the next ARB meeting in July.
No.
Oh, tonight, take it off, I'm taking it off the table tonight.
Yes, because in May it was tabled. So now you.
Oh, I
take it
understand.
off the
Understand.
table
Okay.
So you can discuss.
I understand. So we're taking it off the table so we can discuss.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a housekeeping mission.
Yeah,
prior.
yeah, so
Okay.
you've made the motion, so we need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
You can do all in favor, you don't need a roll call.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Now you can discuss.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure, because I did know some of the photographs were older, just from physically looking at the property. I pass it almost every day. So I was curious, I know you mentioned that he had met the property owners out there, so he did go out there, so his findings are based on what he saw, not just on looking at the old pictures.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. He did a site visit the last week of May. I would have to go back to my phone records to pinpoint the exact day, but I know it was between. I arrived overseas on the 25th of May, and I believe it was between that and the 2nd of June. He was out on that property with the property owner.
Okay. And I was curious, I know that you've been involved in some of the, rebuild in some of the areas of the town. I was curious about his comment about damage that could have resulted from the 2011 earthquake. I hadn't seen that in any of our other reports for some other building applications that we'd seen. I didn't know if we've seen that anywhere else in the town, if that's something that you've seen.
I have it in my building, the old Pace West building. If you ever been into Zondra's, on the wall that says tacos, and if you look at the crack in the brick, that's almost a zigzag chair line down. That's from that earthquake.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, you were going to talk a little bit more about the other report?
Yes, ma'am. So if you're okay with it, we'll kind of just go section by section. So Mr. Barbeau was the town's building official. Before the town gave everything over to the county, the town had their own building official in town who was responsible for building permits, building plans reviews, as well as doing inspections on site. I know Mr. Barbeau very well. He has been in and out of HBG's property, the old school. He was in love with it because he is from Salem, Massachusetts, where they're in love with brick, and we traded stories for days over that. So I know Mr. Barbeau. I know where he looks and how he looks at things, and this report is in direct reference to that. Again, we talk about CMU in 1946 and the standards that were used, and again, I advise you to go look at the ANSI standards and look under section 1.5.1, which clearly states that they pretty much did field tests when somebody cried foul and said, hey, yes, this needs to be done. Outside of that, it was not constructed that way. Mr. Barbeau says that he feels like this, his last sentence in the first paragraph says, along with the importance of such a structure to the community, likely provides for a higher level of quality in the construction of this structure. I would say objection hearsay, just for the mere fact that the company I work for owns a property that was built by a municipality during this time frame between 36, 46, 52, and then lastly in the 60s. And the type of construction that was used, although it can be big and bearing, was not the right procedures or tactics. So I would respectfully disagree with Mr. Barbeau's statement there. As we move further down, the town had asked multiple questions in regards to the structure. Obviously, question number one is with regard to the stability of the structure, is it in danger of collapse? Please speak to the stability of exterior and interior walls, the roof and foundation. Have they been compromised? And Mr. Barbeau's response was, it's in my opinion that this structure is in imminent danger of catastrophic collapse, but areas of the structure are threatened due to the continued intrusion of the elements. As the current owner has stated that he has owned this property for more than 4 years and that these defects existed at the time he purchased the property, this can only be viewed as demolition by neglect. As stated previously, when this structure was abandoned and they moved the firehouse to Station 4 in Evergreen, this structure was already in neglect, as what's mentioned here in Mr. Barbeau's report. When Mr. Barbeau issued the violations to the Zizios, Z Properties, they went ahead and fixed those to ensure that we were not continuing to compromise the structure by patching the holes in the roof that the county let stay there, by boarding up windows, so on and so forth. I just want to bring this point out because this reiterates what I had stated earlier, to where, hey, my clients bought this property in such disrepair, as their intentions was to be able to repair it and move forward. But as they continued to do their inspections and their due diligence, they realized and noticed that it was not going to be feasibly possible. And at that time, they came in for an application to demo, as we previously discussed. As we move on, question 3, do you feel that the building can be saved and repaired? How many buildings in similar or worse condition have you seen successfully restored? I believe it's his third sentence. In my realm, though there is the thought of cost, these do not factor into the determination of an inspector. Rather, we think in terms of code compliance, regardless of the cost involved to do so. Our concern is the nature of the new uses and the compliance needs that these would present. In this respect, it is easily for an inspector to regard almost any structure as salvageable. However, in the real world, it is very likely that the property owner can make a compelling argument regarding the exorbitant expenses to reach that goal. Reiterating what I stated when I previously came in, I said, hey, if you wrote me a check for $5 million, sure, I'll be able to go in and replace it. I'd be able to go in and restore it. But at that point, I would be ended up digging up the slab. I mean, when we look at the infrastructure and guts, as Mr. Barbeau further talks around, the electrical is out of date, nor would it be able to handle the load capacity. The plumbing is out of date, nor is there any plumbing within the slab itself. There's no HVAC in the property itself. And so as we go through these things, as we want to be able to ultimately build a restaurant, so if we were trying to repurpose this and readapt this to turn it into a restaurant, I have to have floor drains for 3-ring sinks. I have to have washout drains for my coolers, for in the kitchen, for behind the bars, so on and so forth. So what that ultimately means is that I'm taking the slab, concrete, which is the foundation, which today is in full structure, but I'm cutting that up in multiple different areas and multiple different pieces to be able to fit my plumbing underground, to be able to readapt and reuse, and then I'm having to pour new concrete on top. Well, one would say, Connor, it's concrete, but as you start cutting up a slab and re-pouring a slab, it's not the same as we're then just putting in new patches. As we continue to go down, number 4, could the building later's additions be removed, leaving the initial core for restoration? Yes, this is a possibility, though it is important to note that the sound engineering and careful work practice would dictate the safety and success of such work. Further goes on to say, in particular, the rearmost addition of the structure causes me concern and is likely the least useful piece of this structure. The owner has expressed concern about the danger of removing the rear parts of the structure without causing a collapse of the front. Though I share his concerns, this does not prelude this from being accomplished. Again, you throw enough money at something, you have a decent chance of being success. Going further down, number 6, while it's fair to say that the items not salvageable would need to be replaced, would it be possible to perform a simple replacement, or would the new elements require incorporation into a new, larger structure? In this regard, the council is particularly interested in the building's roof and shingles, its flooring, the interior walls, the plumbing, electrical, HVAC systems, and windows. So it's obviously, I think this part is important, so I'm going to read it in its full. This is dependent upon many factors such as intended use, live loads, dead loads, egress travel, and degree of tenant separation for some. Although the values of the intended construction when compared to the property values provide some additional requirements such as accessibility and additional egress requirements. However, throughout the structure, many factors present minimal issues such as ceiling heights, dual egress elements, large openings that could locations for entries and natural light intrusions, and concrete slab flooring. The roof structure appears to be in a reasonable shape except for those areas affected through the intrusion of weather, which can be reasonably repaired with new roofing materials can be applied. Flooring at grade level is largely composed of concrete slabs. These are quite salvageable, but the work to support new tenants' uses could act to compromise some of these slabs. If the use includes installing under-slab plumbing or electrical work, as I just stated, it would compromise the slab. Most of the interior framing elements seem intact, though as the structure is comprised of primary structure and numerous add-ons, many of these interior partitions are actually bearing walls, complicating the process of reconfiguring the interior spaces. The plumbing services are out of date and likely undersized for any new uses and should be considered questionable at best, likely resulting in the complete replacement. Similarly, most of the electrical system is likely either garbage or undersized for today's requirements, and as such would need to be completely replaced. In any areas where to be left in use, a hot test would be needed to ensure the safety and continuity of these circuits. The HVAC components are all but non-existent, and it goes on to talk about a hood system, and then it talks about the windows present numerous options, though the current windows do not meet the requirements of the current energy code. They are existing elements and as such could be repaired and continue to use. However, true energy compliance would be deemed the replacement, which would also likely entail the replacement of the existing window lintels as part of this work to meet current code requirements. Right now there's wood lintels in place. Wood lintels are a no-no, obviously, due to the stress test on them, and so ultimately you would have to pull out all those wood lintels and put in steel lintels. We talked about ANSI standards, and while it's still common for private homes to not have I'm under section 7, the last two sentences. While it was still common for private homes to not have meet these requirements at the point of commercial structure would have reflected these construction practices. As such, the likelihood of substantial materials being used in this construction is relatively low. Again, I say objection, hearsay. I live, eat, breathe it at HPG, the QBE business, and can state that that's an inaccurate statement, to say the best. Excuse me, to say the least. Number 8, in order to answer the question above, would actual tests of samples of the block, foundation, and concrete be necessary in order to determine its strengths and lack thereof? For any new use, testing would be a requirement of the planning, the engineering, and the permitting for this project. A concrete or a geological testing company can be used for much of this. Currently, such a firm is being active at the QBE site. So again, we've had this issue at QBE, and what we ended up having to do was go in and throw in rebar and concrete and mortar. Luckily, we only had a couple walls that were done with hollow core CMU. Majority of the building is brick itself, but we did have a couple areas that were hollow core CMU, and when these failed those stress tests, again, we had 4 sections of this building built. We had it in 30, 35, 36, and then we had it in 42 through 45, and then again in the mid-50s, and then in the 60s. And so I can speak from personal experience, just as Mr. Barbeau mentions in his report, that we had hollow core there. We know there's hollow core here, and we know what had to happen at the QBE site. Number 9, who would have the most knowledge in determining a building's current conditions versus options for building new structures? A consulting firm, building inspector, a general contractor. This is what I love about Joe. He's very honest, and I concur with his statements. I'm going to read it in full because I think it's an honest opinion. Doesn't mean that I'm lying to you of what I'm saying in front of you, but I'm going to go ahead and read it in full. Each of the mentioned entities provides different perspectives with regard to specific knowledge. A consulting firm will provide specific information to reflect the constraints and restrictions supplied by the developer, which will act to influence their considerations. For example, if the client wants a new structure, that's what's going to be presented. The building inspector is concerned with public safety and compliance with building codes and is specifically charged with interpreting the application of that code with an overriding concern for public safety. The general contractor will speak to the cost, time span, and feasibility of the project based upon cost of materials, labor, logistics, and permitting. Each can make differing and valid points regarding the project. I believe in this matter, the consultant and the general contractor would choose to pursue the new construction route for efficiency and expense. As a building inspector, whether the work concerns rehabilitation of an old structure or new construction, my concern is simply code compliance, which must come before cost or scheduling concerns. As we continue to move through, just reiterate, under the summary there, about 5-6 lines down on the right side. That said, it remains the inspector's view that this structure does not rise to the level of requiring demolition. This structure presents many challenges to a developer, but none that are enforceable from the construction side. However, this determination is not considered the cost factors involved in the feasibility of that aspect, and that was not specifically requested. So again, saying you can throw enough money at anything and build it any which way you want, but at some point does it pass the laugh test of going in and doing it? You have a builder here today. I could go to that builder and I could say, hey, here's a blank check, and he could go in and make it whatever it needs to be because he has a blank check. But will I ever see the ROI on that? Does it ever pass the laugh test of would the town put their own budget at risk to do that? Those are the types of things that come into consideration. And as Mr. Barbeau walks through his report, he says it is feasible. As I told you in the beginning, yes, but due to there are structural issues to it that increase the cost. There's no guts to the building that we're able to save. We're going to end up having to cut into the slab to put in floor drains and plumbing for bathrooms. The electrical is going to all need to be redone. We're going to have to pay a tap fee to the county to tap in for water. These folks know how bad that is. Then we're also going to have to tap in. It's the cost of being able to go and put this in my opinion, just doesn't pass the laugh test. And as Mr. Barbeau mentions in his report, he's not looking at this as a cost perspective or the feasibility side of that. He's simply looking at it based off code compliance. And you can bring anything up to code with a blank check. I would love to answer any questions that you all have about any of the statements that I made or any part of the report that you just have a general question on and you would like a response to. I'd be happy to provide.
I mean, I voted to demolish it back in March or April, whenever it was, so.
Will you remind us so this report was done, Mr. Barbeau's report was done basically 5 years ago, almost to the day. So remind me again, after this report was issued, and it's pretty clear that it was abandoned and largely neglected, and kind of the commentary at that point was that he felt, in his opinion, that it was being left to demolish further so that it could be demolished. So at that time, when they knew kind of the condition it was in, what's happened with it since then? Can you remind me of any remediations?
Of course. So Mr. Barbeau went and issued violations based off directive from the council and the town manager at the time, I believe, for some of the, at that point, I think there was a new hole that came about in the roof. And at that time, they fixed that, they patched that, so they would ensure that no further anything that would come in there being water or animals, bats, whatever it may be. At the same time, some of the boards had fallen off the windows, and so part of the Virginia State Maintenance Code is if it is a vacant building, it needs to be secured, and so that's why the windows were reboarded up. And to my knowledge, that's what the extent of it was. I don't know if Ms. Lockhart or Mr. Schneider knew anything more than that, but to my knowledge, that's what it was.
Thank you. You guys have any other questions? Okay, I don't really have any other questions. I mean, I'll just make the same comment that I had, in our last meeting, where I do feel that this property, among others, it's at a point where it is probably beyond repair. To your point, if somebody had a blank check, they could do it. And but it's a shame because it puts the town in the position of saying, okay, well, we have to demolish a property that has significance to the town, but they're kind of left with no choice because of the condition of the property. And I think that's unfortunate.
don't have any other questions. There are the two motions that you guys can look through and determine if you're ready to make a motion. I would like to just kind of point out, I know we don't have a full board tonight, but it also might be some time before we get a full board, and we will be down to 3 members. So just keep that in mind as we kind of make a decision if you guys need more information. I want to make it very clear to the applicant what information we're looking for so that they have an expectation should we ask them to come back. But if you're ready to make a motion, there are 2 available. If this does not satisfy the board, certainly let me know and we can take a brief recess and we can talk through one-on-one. I can talk through updating this motion. So if you guys want to take a moment to read it.
I'm good to vote.
I've read him.
Okay.
Is everybody comfortable voting tonight? I know we said we'd maybe table it, but if we're comfortable, we can go ahead and vote.
I'm more than comfortable voting tonight, but as long as you guys.
Are you? Okay. I think that the motion that we are going to end up voting on is for the full demolition, if I'm correct. Okay, would you like to go ahead and make the motion?
Yeah, I move that the ARB approve COA ZP 2022. Okay. June 15th, 2022, to demolish the old fire station at 14941 Jefferson Street, subject to the following conditions of approval and findings for approval. Do I have to read the whole thing?
Yes, please. And
Okay.
when you're done, I'll take that copy and I'll give it to Mr. Lee so he has it.
Okay. Conditions of approval. Photo documentation. Prior to issuance of a town zoning permit for demolition of the structure, the applicant will provide the town complete photographic documentation of the exterior and interior of the structure. Photo documentation to include all 4 levels of the exterior of the structure, including views from Washington Street that demonstrate the structure's relationship to adjacent structures and the streetscape. Photo documentation shall also include architectural details of the structure, such as building, eaves, columns, entry doors, windows, etc. Interior photos should note room layout and similar architectural details. Photographic documentation to be submitted to the town in hard copy and digital formats. Written description. Prior to issuance of the town zoning permit for demolition of the structure, the applicant will provide to the town a complete written description of the exterior and interior of the structure. Written documentation to include interior and exterior dimensions of the structure, orientation of the building on the property through a plat or similar description, and a description of the architectural style, period, and method of construction of the structure. Written descriptions to be submitted to the town in hard copy and digital formats. Architectural salvage. Prior to or conjunction with the demolition of the structure, the applicant, as reasonably practicable, will make available to the public without charge architectural components of the structure, including but not limited to windows, doors, decorative and structural elements, etc. Prior to issuance of town zoning permit for demolition of the structure, the applicant will provide to the town a written description of how and when this condition 3 will be fulfilled, including the means of public notice. Such notice to also be shared on the town's website and social media platforms as appropriate. New construction. New construction shall incorporate the architectural character of the original structure to include replication and or reuse of the front elevation of Washington Street and use of the exterior architectural details and materials documented in conditions 1 and 2. Findings for approval. Conditional approval of the demolition requires photographic and written documentation of the architectural elements of the structure and its context relative to the town's streetscape and adjacent properties for future study and architectural reference. Conditional approval of the demolition allows for the opportunity for adaptive reuse of the architectural components of the structure. Demolition of the structure has the potential to improve and/or continue the viability of adjacent occupied historic structures, like the old bank and the Red House Tavern.
Do I have a second? No.
Vote?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Wilson?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Utz?
Yes.
Thank you all. I know this has been a longer application that we've worked through, but thank you for your diligence as well as yours, Mr. Leek, and please thank the property owners. We will send a zoning approval letter for the 2 certificate of appropriatenesses. I think I still owe you the bungalow one, and then I'll send you this one with the firehouse. We'll have copies of both of these documents, the conditions and findings attached to it. Just don't forget that this still means you need to go and apply for a demolition permit at the building department at the county.
Perfect. So I should cancel the bulldozer tomorrow?
Yes.
Just kidding, I'm kidding. On a serious note, Chair King, thank you. Ms.
Yeah,
Utz.
please wait until I'm safely in North Carolina, because I will be very sad to see that go down, so just,
Ms. Utz, thank you for your all service to the town. I know you all do not get to thank you enough, this entire board. It's a thankless job, but thank you all for everything you've done. Thank you for your patience with me, and I look forward to keeping my word and coming and working with you all in regards to the elevation as well as the construction materials and being able to build something beautiful for the town that we're going to be able to say in 100 years from now is historic, as I stated previously. So thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
We are putting a bad spot, though. We really are.
Does anybody need a quick little 5-minute recess? Are you guys good to keep going?
we're good.
Okay. Our next item is we need to also bring back the Robinson Paradise architecturals. And Kim, was this tabled? This one was not tabled, so we don't need a motion. So tonight we have with us Bill, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We have Bill back with us. He's brought some samples. I'm going to turn on the projector, and he's going to go through some of the items that we talked through. So feel free to ask questions as we go through it, and we'll just discuss it as we work through. Remember, sometimes some things come across the projector, they're not the same exact color that their fancy software will have, so.
All right, it's starting to become visible now. So let me first start off by saying thanks for your time tonight. And also, since I was here last time, the last house in this list was changed. The previous house was a Willow. The Glenwood is a sister house, if you will. The elevations are very similar, but the footprint of the house is a little bit bigger, more square feet. I believe it's a little bit deeper than the previous house. I think it would have been selected originally, but the lot fit matrix, I guess, wasn't complete, so we weren't sure that Glenwood would fit on there's 5 lots in here that are very shallow and needed a certain footprint house for it to fit. The Willow we knew would definitely fit. They weren't sure about the Glenwood. It does fit, so they'd like to put that one in place of the Willow that we looked at last time. So I have those elevations, and we'll look at those again tonight. So there's the site, as you guys remember. And I think the last month's discussion, we were talking about how these 3 lots here were going to be important, that they had brick on the elevations because of the proximity of the other houses
Correct.
nearby the neighborhood that have brick, so. In addition, I think I was asked to bring a lot assignment sheet, so we'll go through it if you want. We can go through and we'll look at each lot and the houses that we've assigned to it, so we can ensure that the right elevations are picked. But we definitely make sure that the brick elevations were selected for those 3 lots that are at the beginning of the community coming in. So this is the Jamestown C. Comments from before. I think you guys might remember there was kind of like a checkerboard when you looked at especially on the rendering, which is 3-dimensional. So I had the architecture changed, so we added the same elements that are on the front of the house are also on the return walls coming along the side here to take away that checkerboard look. But this is, again, this is the Jamestown C, and this is the lot or the house that'll be signed to 2 of those first lots. Let me go back 1 sheet. So that lot 1 will be a Jamestown C, and then lot 20, which is on the other side of the street over here, that'll be a Jamestown C as well, but it'll be a different color scheme, so they won't look identical, and they are, even though they're the first couple of houses coming in, they're not right across the street from each other. And then that, I think it's lot 2 there, that's got one of the Glenwoods elevations on it, so let me skip to that just so we can look at those. So there's 3 elevations for the Glenwood. Again, very similar to the Willow that was selected before, but the plan's slightly deeper than the Willow was, so more square footage. Oops, went the wrong way. And then this is the B elevation. I think this one is most similar to the Willow that was presented before. And then, unfortunately, I don't have a rendering for this one yet, but this is the brick elevation. You'll see brick. Looks like more than 50% of the front of the house is brick on the elevation there. So I think that'll be a good fit for that lot too.
And those materials in the non-brick, those are all the same material. I know we had questions on some of the.
Yeah, so the rest of it's, this is a horizontal siding, clapboard siding, and this is a board and batten siding.
Okay.
And those decorative gables there. So, again, those are the elevations proposed for those first 3 lots. And then, if you want, we can either go down this list, or we can just go through the other elevations, and I can point out where we made changes to the fronts and sides so that they have more consistency with the materials going across.
I think that's fine. I think we just wanted to know what was going to be up front that would be visible.
Yeah,
from.
that's what I thought, and I did bring samples of the stone that you had requested too, if
Okay.
you want to look at those afterwards. So the Jamestown D, again, I think before, because we weren't doing the material on the returns, it looked more checkerboardy. This part of the garage too, I believe had the same kind of siding that was up here. So you only had a water table coming across. So we went ahead and brought the stone all the way up, so you got more of a monolithic look going across. So
Is that the end stone that you have up there too? If you,
I think so. I don't have these labeled in correspondence with the different color schemes, but it would be, one of these 3. And you're right, I think, if not that first one, it might be the one in the middle, actually.
okay.
And then the F elevation, again, the Jamestown, all the elevations were pretty similar, and that's one small garage here had the siding down to a water table. We went ahead and put the stone all the way across, and then also on the return walls. You can see that.
Thanks, Alex.
Hadley, see, this is the brick elevation. Again, the biggest changes on these were that we added the masonry to the return walls of the garage. I think the other change we made was prior, came all the way up to the bottom of these windows.
Right.
So we lowered it down to where it would be right at the floor system exchange. That was one of the comments before. Hadley D, similar on this one, where, again, the returns now have the masonry on them. And instead of having the different kinds of siding going across the top, it's all the shake siding. So you don't have the checkerboard look anymore. I believe this one also, the masonry was up to the bottom of the windows. We lowered it down.
Yeah, those look night and day, really.
Yeah. It just looks more symmetrical and.
All right, then the Hadley F, not too much changed here other than the mason return on the return wall there. It flowed all the way across. That one always just had the water table anyway. And then Hampshire, again, similar. Before, I think the siding changed in between these two sections of the top floor, so now it's all the same kind. And then we've got the masonry again returning back on the garage return wall. Hampshire F, similar changes, all the same siding now in the front, and then the return walls with the masonry. The Hampshire H elevation, I think mainly was the siding that we changed, so it was all the same across there. On the second floor, the bottom floor does have the horizontal siding. And because it didn't have a water table on the front of the house, we didn't do a return on the garage wall either. And then we looked at the Glenwood before. This one, I think what you will see as far as masonry on a return, the return wall that goes back on this side where that's that one-car garage that sits back a little bit, you can see there's masonry on that return wall. The front door is kind of like an alcove, so you won't see that from the side as much as you did on some of the other elevations. So I think when we looked at the Willow, it's a similar design to this, and I think the comments on that one were it was fine the way it was without having to add extra masonry on that one. And then B elevation. The only change that we made on this one, I think before the board and batten stopped here, and just to make it more symmetrical, we brought it all the way down, so it's all one kind of siding on that. Okay, and then the C elevation again is the brick elevation. I apologize for not rendering for that. But those are the changes, and again, we did bring in the stone samples, so if you wanted to look at that. This is just, I think you guys had this information before too, but these are just the color schemes that are available. I think there's 3 different kinds of brick and then 3 different kinds of stone as well. And then the different vinyl siding colors.
Yeah, the color of the brick definitely looks a little bit different in person as opposed to the renderings.
Yeah, what I find, just as from my experience, the renderings seem to have more of a bright color to them, whereas when you go out and see them after they're being installed, it's not as quite as bright. So it's more of a faded color.
Emily, how many lots are there?
It's 20.
And there's how many different designs total? Do you plan on utilizing every single one of those designs?
Well, it'll be, so here's the list of the house. Am I not connected? Not sure why this is so turned on. Okay. It may be hard to see this, but, so there's 4 different house plans.
Okay.
And each house plan has 3 different elevations.
Okay.
So I think with the ones that were selected, I think except for No, there was 3. Okay, so I think when, on this, if you look at this list, and I can provide this, I can send you this in an email, but all 3 of the elevations that were shown will be put in the community, so you'll have a lot of variety in there.
Okay.
A lot of repeat houses, and plus, the fact that there's 4 different house types. So for a 20-lot community, that's a pretty good mix.
Okay.
You said you're selecting what you're gonna put in, they'll not, or the potential buyers have the,
So we work as a speculative
Spec,
builder.
okay.
So we usually don't even offer the houses for sale until right about the time the drywall's getting installed. So we do pre-select everything as far as
Okay.
the
That's what I thought you
elevations,
said.
colors, and even some of the inside finishes too.
okay.
And it's even more important, I guess, nowadays with the availability to get materials. We have to order them so far in advance in order for them to be ready. It would delay the house building process to wait for customers to select everything. But this way, we can also ensure that you guys will know what the house will look like.
Right.
It's not something that's going to be up to, we get everybody that wants a Jamestown Sea, and the whole community looks like one
Yeah.
big house. So.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate the changes that they made to the elevations. I think they make a big difference.
Questions or concerns that ARB would like to go through?
No, not that I have.
No.
No.
No, it seems like they cleaned up everything that we wanted.
So if that's the case, what I can do is I can say a motion out loud, and then one of you can say so moved, and then second, and then we can take it from there.
Okay.
Okay. You said it's a Glenwood, correct?
Right, the Glenwood is the house that's replacing the Willow.
Okay, so for a motion for the Robinson Paradise Architecturals, I move the ARB approve the architectural master plan as presented at the June 15th meeting, including the new addition of the Glenwood house model in replacement of the Willow house that we previously had seen, meeting all of the requests that the ARB had previously presented. This master plan shall be approved for the 20 lots, and DR Horton will pre-select all of the styles and color specifications as they see fit.
So moved.
Second.
Rochelle?
Discussion?
No.
Alec?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Kane?
Yes.
Utz?
Yes.
Okay. So you guys are approved, so what we'll do is we will use this as the master architectural, so if you'll send kind of the final, I have the version here, but I think like the cover sheet still said Willow.
Yeah, so I did edit that. And
Okay.
I also added in
The lot one.
the lot listings too, so it's all part of the same package. So
Okay.
I'll send you that.
If you'll send that, that would be great, and then we'll send over the approval letter for the certificate of appropriateness.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you so
all for your
much.
time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
making the changes and bringing in the stone samples. It was very helpful.
Okay. Our next agenda item is a fence application for Aroma 2 at 14871 Washington Street. We are reviewing this tonight. We have had some back and forth discussion with some of the neighboring property owners regarding some issues with light and noise and a buffer at the property. And so working with Aroma 2, this is something that they have presented as an option to try to mitigate the issues that their neighbors are having there. So we're putting this application forward. They could not be here tonight, so I'm presenting on behalf of them. It's a relatively simple application. It is for 8 linear feet of a white vinyl fence that would go at the rear of the property. Again, it's just going to be the back most property line. It will abut another fence, but this will be their fence, their maintenance of it. It will be the vinyl, so there are no slats that you can see through, so that we're hoping that light would better stay on their side, not penetrate through to the neighboring properties. And we're also hopeful that this will help some with the sound. So does the ARB have any questions regarding the fence? This is one that we see throughout town in more of the residential areas, but being that it backs up to residential and is transitional commercial, we do feel that it would make an appropriate style.
No, my question was it going to abut the other fence? And it will. Is there concern for the light? Is it for the cars coming through that that's the
Yes.
light? So this would hopefully prevent the light from coming through the fence.
That's
Okay.
correct. What happens is when they come in the parking lot and as they're going straight back and then making the slight angles to pull into the spaces there, in the evening hours, you know, through the winter months when the sun sets a lot earlier, the lights are shining through into the backyard and then subsequently sometimes into the homes there. So the goal is that this would help with some of the light, but we're hoping it's also going to help with just providing another buffer, privacy, and help with some noise.
No, I think it'll look nice. I mean, their building is white, so the white on white will be, I think it looks more appropriate than a natural fence or even black. I think the white is the most appropriate color.
If there's no other questions, on the bottom of packet page 10, there is a motion.
I can do the can I do the motion? I can do the last one. I'll do the last one. Okay. I move the board approve COA ZP 2022-0608 for the fence addition at 14871 Washington Street as presented in the application.
I'll second.
Mallett,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
That is all of our agenda items for tonight. So our next item is old business. Everything's moving along still. We have a lot of construction happening at Crossroads Village Center as well as Robinson Village. So those are two of our biggest projects. We're also right now working with VDOT to fix our crosswalks, so the stamping will happen. I know that's not one of our old business things, but it's kind of been an old business thing for the town for a long time. So that everybody's aware, you can share with your neighbors. Most likely tomorrow will get rained out. They'll be here Friday, they'll be here Saturday, and then they'll be back most likely on Tuesday. So we're working with them there. And then that's all I have for old business, unless, oh, one other update. I'm working with the sign company. I did receive a mock-up earlier this week for the sign. It's not exactly what I think we all had envisioned and talked about, so I'm going back to them with coming up with another option or two to bring back to the board. So we're at a good starting point, but it was not ready yet to present, so we will be bringing that back hopefully in July. Any new business items that you guys have questions about? We don't have any upcoming applications. Those were kind of the big one was Robinson Paradise. Anything?
No.
Okay. Planning Commission updates.
We haven't had a meeting since the
All right,
last,
we have it.
no. And then we still have the joint public hearing
Yes.
scheduled for the 21st?
27th.
27th, yeah,
27th. Yep.
yeah.
So that'll be with council, and the joint public hearing is for the 6712 Jefferson Street property. The town is working on initiating a rezoning and a zoning text amendment and accompanying comprehensive plan amendment to change that property from residential 1 to transitional commercial. And then a zoning text amendment to add transitional housing definition to our zoning ordinance. We're currently working with a interested purchaser and the Bean owners in order to come to a settlement for a previous ongoing zoning matter that we've had. So we're working through that. And since Marchant's not here for town council updates, we have a upcoming public hearing on Tuesday night, the 21st, for the budget. So if anybody's interested, would like to attend, and it'll be for approval for the budget and the tax rate at the council level. So we will be discussing that on Tuesday, the 21st. The office is closed Monday for the Juneteenth holiday. We will also have the meeting on the 27th for the joint public hearing, as well as a council public hearing for the zoning text amendment for a few minor cleanup items that the Planning Commission forwarded on to them. So we'll have that, as well as another public hearing for the fourth quarter budget amendment. So it'll be a busy evening on the 27th. And then we are also, Kim, thank you. Kim's feeding me our updates. Kim also let me know that I should let everyone know the DMV Select will be closing. The council has taken a lot of time. It was a very hard decision for a lot of them. But after a lot of consideration, they have made the decision to close the DMV Select based on what their findings were and how it was performing right now. It's a hard market to perform in, and we gave it a lot. We had some room to grow, but the council has made their decision, and staff definitely had an input in it as well. So it was, again, a hard decision, but that is the decision that was made. So we will be closing up shop at about 4 p.m. on June 28th. So if you have any DMV transactions that we can help you with before then, make an appointment.
I did use it twice, so I would like to say I was glad that it was here for 2 transactions that I had to do.
Yes. So we will be doing our best to reutilize the space and make some changes in town to just be a little bit more efficient in how we serve our community. So we look forward to being able to do that. And then we have some upcoming events, and we'll have a lot of people in and out of town hall. So I think all in all, it'll be good. And I think our community will, react how they do. So.
Do we have, just out of curiosity, any updates on the Leonard property? Is there any?
We do not have any updates as of right now. I know that there was a county case that was deferred till September.
Okay.
So, a few more just kind of feel-good updates. We did have a water balloon fight today at Longstreet Commons and at Green Hill Crossing. So some of our council members were there. I know Mayor got soaking wet, so I think he had a fun time with everybody and the officers. And then Chief had a fun little event for the end of school today. He had swirlies come out, and we did free ice cream with the cops at the park. So hopefully the little ones, or kids of all ages, got to go get some ice cream and have fun. This coming Sunday, we will have a Father's Day farmers market. So all of the dads, the first 50 dads that show up will get a free ticket to do the axe throwing that's going to be here. We'll also have cornhole set up, and it'll be a fun event. We also have a special chef coming in, and he will be doing tasting, so free tastings, but it's using a lot of the products that we have right here at our farmers market and shopping from our vendors. So we're really excited about that. Hopefully you can make it out. If not, share it with your neighbors so that they can come up. Later on in August, we'll have National Night Out coming up, as well as our summer concert on the 20th, and then Haymarket Day planning has started, so it's going to be a busy summer.
We'll be here.
You can come back.
Yeah. I was very impressed on Sunday at the turnout at the farmers market. There was so much activity happening. It was great.
Yes, we're very excited. Erin has done a phenomenal job putting everything together, so we couldn't be happier. So that is all I have. I think your last motion is adjournment.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Sharon, I saw your house when I did the quote.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, the one in North Carolina?
Yeah.
I know. I was about ready to go to